It would also be a portal for people's skills and assets. And skills and assets could be matched up with jobs. People could actually submit jobs from the community and have somebody who's skilled with that, who maybe has a hard time holding down like a full-time or a part-time job with that particular skill, but can utilize it here and there to get some work done, and in that way give employment to people in this. And there's got to be something to do with youth, setting them up with altruism while they're waiting, because so many of them are waiting for services. And that's one of the things, is that this would help with people waiting for services, I think. And I feel like people can go from dullness to being celebrators of life. So it's not just dullness to wellness, which I said before, it's becoming a celebrator, because once you have wellness, what is it for? What are you well for? What are you here to do? And not as like, oh, I have to have some big mission, but we're all here to do something. We're all doing something, whether we're trying to do something or not. Alan Watts was really good at illustrating this. It's like, you can try not to do something, or you can try to do something. Either way, you're trying to do something. So we're always doing something. So this is about getting into alignment with what that visionary experience and our own hearts want us to be in alignment with. It's about seeing with our hearts and trying to move into alignment with that. It's not some mysterious human faculty. We can have visions in our mind with like our ego playing little tapes going on, or we can have visions of something better for the world, like which is more powerful. And then if somebody has certain visions, once that visionary experience happens, if it mixes in with ego stuff, it can get seemingly delusional, because the ego and the visionary is trying to coexist. And the only way to perhaps make that delusional stuff go away is to step in alignment with what we're trying to co-create with the visions, not co-creating our own ego life over and over again on a daily basis, the same thing. So it's not just about breathing and healing and getting well for oneself. That does help the world in some way, because if you're not super traumatized, you're kind of going about your life. So maybe you go from being helped by the system and say like a burden on the system because there's these professionals needing to take care of you, to just being a cog in the machine of society, maybe watching a lot of TV, buying some stuff, maybe going from being a consumer of mental health to being a consumer of regular corporate goods. And to me, the next level is stepping into being a co-creator of the social fabric in such a way that we level up as a society and we start cooperating instead of incorporating. Because the ego self is the one that's making us unwell. And it's not necessarily our personal ego, but our ego in the structure of society. It's not congruent. So just to breathe and make us able to cope better in the current structure, again, it changes the structure a bit, because we're no longer, say, consuming mental health goods. We move into consuming just consumer goods, but beyond that, it's the ego isn't that real, and what is it that this world-centric energy wants me to create? It wants me to create world-centricity, not just egocentricity. So to be able to, again, be in healthy egocentricity, it's okay, but it's also about world-centricity, I think. And I think it's possible that if somebody gets back to egocentricity and feels fine, it's not a stable thing. So a person will eventually go back into supposed distress and unwellness, or maybe somebody else will. Like, it's a collective process. So if I get a bit better, I'm in an ego over here, maybe somebody over there starts going downhill, because there's no cause. It's just if a person didn't go back to world-centric consciousness and start changing the social fabric, somebody somewhere is going to succumb to the ego fabric of society and go downhill. Whereas if somebody goes into world centricity, it's balancing some of that out and changing the egocentric fabric such that others will stay well. This is the immunity. This is others staying well without having to necessarily think, well, I need to become a visionary and go into world-centered consciousness. That's the thing. I think that certain people go into it, and then most people get medicated down into pathology. But maybe only 1% of us actually have to go into that, see it world-centrically, integrate it, and change the social fabric ever so slightly, and nobody even notices, just kind of like a boiling frog. Like, people aren't going to notice small leveling ups in consciousness, and that's probably already what's happening, is some people are integrating it and bringing the consciousness level up. So this would just be about more people being able to step into that and bring the consciousness level up, because when it levels up and the social fabric changes, so there's more fairness and equality and services for people to live better lives, the collective trauma goes down, the collective consciousness goes up, and not as many people would need to go into visionary states in order to balance this, or, like the universe attempting to create visionaries, but then our limited ego structure turns them into mental patients, and then that just creates more disparity. And a lot of people that get turned into mental patients then say, self-medicate, and then they end up homeless and on the street. So the next level of mental patients is like homeless people who aren't accepting the help. And so that's why actually part of this organization would be to help homeless people. It would be, the altruism people would first connect with is helping homeless people, helping the less fortunate, because in those visionary states, that's what we wanted to do anyway. So we don't need to necessarily wait till we're stable in order to do that. By doing that, we might actually be more stable, because we are in alignment with our world-centric consciousness that we're connecting with. I think about a story about a lady I heard who would take homeless people home to shower when she was manic. Go put that lady in a shelter helping people shower or something, instead of taking them to her own home. So this would be a total transformation. This would be investing in people, realizing that people can go to like 0 consciousness to 1,000 in a short period of time, because they've already gone up to 1,000, but now they're down at 0 because they've been crushed by the structures of society. And that's part of the Dream Center, is restoring people to their dreams. And that's what Shane told me, is it's a 1-year program. People get sober, people get restored to meaningful work. I actually thought that it'd be cool to have like a hemp farm or something, or like a bamboo farm, and people could go work on that as well if they wanted to at some point, just to have meaningful work. So there would be coaches in the organization. Safety, clarity. Part of clarity is fish oil too. Came across this document that talks about the stages of psychosis, and how at like stage 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, people should be given fish oil. And then at like stage 3, when it's like so bad, really bad, then they should be given minimal antipsychotics. I was never told to take fish oil, and I was in that program, so I don't understand that. So I printed some of those off, and I'm going to be giving them out, because it's kind of dumb to me that it says that right there. So it's moving towards world centricity. And I thought as part of the program too, people would have to watch like my 100 hours of videos to create context, and maybe to not repeat so much of what I've said, or I don't know, just contribute to the context. That would be part of the organization, of the business, is to create the context, the language for people to see and relate in this way. To make it relational is to make it so people are relating in this way. So this first stage is sort of like, okay, I'm talking about it, blah blah blah, and then the next stage is doing it. So part of my doing it will be actually connecting with my own altruism. And part of my altruism is making these videos, and then also creating this business for other people to sort of do that too, and co-create with me. It's almost like training co-creators in a way, because there's people out there like me, but I haven't been able to find them. And part of this social purpose business is to train people to help the less fortunate. And we can build the dream center together at some point. People could be given a lot of tools for thriving. So a lot of times in the system it's talked about like wellness tools and coping mechanisms. Well, what about thriving tools? And one would be, say, an iPhone. One would be a YouTube account. One would be a GoFundMe page. One would be a LinkedIn profile. One would be a Twitter. And some of this is just to channel the energy and create and link it all together, and then maybe have a blog. And in that way, a person is practicing these things by creating, not practicing by going to school and learning, but just by creating. And that's actually something I've been doing. I've been blogging for 2 years, not really much, success with it, but it's just practicing putting stuff out there and practicing writing a bit and practicing creating a little blog and linking things together. And it hasn't been successful by any stretch, but it's still part of just practicing, and I wasn't trying to do anything with it anyway, but it still is a learning process. So yeah, I don't like the current paradigm of medicating people to be cogs in the machine, to be a band-aid on their ego. I want to know what made their ego blow up in the first place. What visions did they see? What were they experiencing? And people in the project, in the company, could also be paid for their creations. So create something and submit it, and if it is useful in some way, then or if it's picked as the one, then a person would get paid, or there's a contest or something. So that would inspire people to do their best. And also be a curator of that creative energy. So maybe there's so many different projects and stuff, and it's curated into a collection, and then people could then buy stuff and draw out of that material from people created. So give a place to people that have seen it's all up to them, but there's no place to go to do that, because we're each responsible. And I thought of an acronym for the Shane project. Shane is the homeless man that I met, and it's safety, happiness first, altruism, neighborhood, and energy. And I've talked about neighborhood before versus community. And I don't know if I talked about it, but I realized we're each a dream center. So it's one thing to create a dream center, but we are each a center of dreams. And we can help connect other people to that center of their dreams. The dream realm is common. Another thing that could be created is a buddy system. So to have a visionary mentor, just like somebody that's going through 12-step program. Oh, that'd be good. Visionary 12 steps. I don't know if it's the first step, but it says like you're powerless. This would be like you're powerful. You are the power. Like this is all up to you. And so yeah, partner with charities who do altruistic work, who need people. So this goes on the premise too that people want to contribute, they have gifts to give, and they want to help out. And your problems go away when you help others. I don't know if that's true, but when I was just helping out at the clubhouse, I was doing a lot better than when I was helping out in a community versus working to fix problems in the mental health system. It'd be cool to find a charity that does something about trees. And I drew this little drawing, which is if somebody's in distress, and then there's me, the director, and I can direct them towards altruism, and then they're happy. And this could also be being directed towards visionary 12 steps, and then that helps to design a world of less ego, whereas the system medicates a person and they go that way. So be a director of that energy, so that energy can channel someone into being medicated and suppressed, or can channel somebody into being making that energy relational. I don't think I would call it 12 steps though. I think I would call it like, I don't know, something different. Maybe the 12 visions, or whatever number of visions. So that makes it relational. So this is like a relational matrix. It's like the point of this isn't just to create visionaries, but it's the way the visionaries are going to change the social fabric. That's the spontaneous social behaviors. So somebody could run the kindness crew and the crazy crew and stuff, and random acts of kindness, so all those things. And with my coaching, it would be, how can I help you help the world? I don't give a crap about helping you to lose 10 pounds. If you are your best self, you will lose 10 pounds. And if you're your best self helping the world, you will be the body type you need to be. So part of it is, from egocentricity to world centricity, we need world-centric lifestyle design, but first we need trauma-informed lifestyle design. The trauma-informed lifestyle design is the safety stuff. The second, the ego stuff, is like getting clarity and the role thing, and also the world-centric is the altruism. And part of the project too is learn through your altruism. Go out and do altruistic stuff and learn about yourself. Don't learn about yourself through the context of a disease model. That's not going to do anything. So in the altruism, we're learning skills, we're being relational, we're learning about ourselves, we're valuing ourselves, we're not stigmatizing ourselves, we're contributing, we're helping, so we don't fall victim to all those things. And that's, so after doing altruism for a while, then you can come to the company and say, these are my skills and assets. And so it's not just about skills and assets, it's about what it is you want to actually do. So maybe you don't have a skill, but you really want to learn it because you learn that while doing your altruism. Well, the business can help you with that. Or maybe you have this amazing skill, but you absolutely despise utilizing it. Well, you shouldn't have to use it if you don't want to. Like, if you can design websites but you hate it, don't do it, because it's gonna zap your energy. So it's about finding what skills and assets you want. Maybe you had some in the past, but those are actually tying you to your past whatever. So maybe you need to drop those and move on to something else. Like, maybe you can do customer service, but you hate customer service. So that's not something to put as one of your skills and assets. So there'd be clowning bits and creatively maladjusted bits, or creatively adjusted bits. I don't like the maladjusted part, because I think we're actually well adjusted to a maladjusted society. So, and random acts of kindness. And I feel like a lot of what I want to design is in alignment with what Patch Adams would do. So I do want to go out and learn from him. And I think part of it is, Katie is mending the gap between spirituality and psychiatry. I'd like to mend the social fabric and help anyone have access to eCPR, which is community-based. So that helps to mend the social fabric. And by creating visionary thrivers, it also helps to mend the social fabric. There could also be a learning community aspect of it. And also mending world centricity, so helping people to connect with their cause. And it's also, what are we the cause of? And that goes back to my question of, how are you contagious? If I'm really wanting to help trees, for example, if I sit here on the couch, that's not going to help trees thinking about it. But I could actually go out and be the cause of helping trees by finding that cause and working with that cause. So it's almost like finding the cause within one's heart, and what that matches up with that's already out there. And if there isn't something, maybe create it. Or if there is something, make it better. So a question I could ask people is, what did you connect with? I could also get Douglas College students to help. And creating happiness and equal opportunity is good business. We want your... I just thought of a funny idea, creating like a human feces recycling or composting business and be like, we want your shit. Give us your shit. So I was also thinking, as part of the business, is to take elements of the system that are really good and duplicate them. So have a rehab fund and have a I guess it would be a visionary fund, and also like a consumer initiative fund. So visionary initiative fund, and that's an appreciative inquiry thing. I've found an article on appreciative inquiry and what it is that works, utilize that, and what it is that doesn't work, don't utilize that. So incorporate TRE and ECPR, and I think even just by holding ECPR training, that will start to create a list of people who are seeing that this sort of thing is valuable. So creating a mailing list, and maybe even having a video room, or teaching people how to harvest their mania through taking video. And that's sort of what I'm doing by creating all this videos, harvesting my mania in retrospect. And I think dialogue with oneself can be actually quite helpful. And I think MI, as in mental illness, should go to multidimensional intelligence. It's just not integrated. And can also ask, what did you see to help the world? Not about one's mental illness. And make the buy-in into a game of some sort. Like you can earn gift cards or time bank or share in the company. I also thought of an app that would be something about noticing kindness and liking things in reality, and you can collect points and then actually get stuff or something like that for fun, versus, you know, collecting Pokemons, which aren't even real. Do people love to collect these things? If there's a way to collect points for real, you know, people like to like things on Facebook. What if you could like stuff in reality? What if you could get liked because of what you were wearing, or because you said something kind to somebody, or something like that? It'd be mean if there was like a not like button, if somebody did something mean and then they got not likes. I feel like it could be a way of like policing each other, and then we don't all of a sudden need the police because we're policing each other. That would be kind of mean. Oh, and in the company we'd need to create our own lingo as well, and almost create your own levels of, like if it was 12 steps or 12 visions or something, when you got to the next level, you named your own self of what it is that you are in the company. And there could be ideas for that too. And it's almost like, you know, when you are that. So creating a new system that is a business of bringing out the best and the gifts, and not about trying to fix deficits. And that's the thing, beyond strengths to unique gifts and contribution. What is your contribution to the world? What brings you joy? And if somebody says cats, well, then maybe they should work with cats. And because joy plus altruism is very powerful. Visionary peer supporters and not mental illness peer supporters. We're visionaries trying to reintegrate with society, but we're also recreating society. So there is a gap there. I feel like people in downtown East Side took something to give them like that visionary state, and then they got lost in the visions and took more and more visions. So they're too lost in that visionary state, and then it takes its toll on their body, and they don't necessarily take the treatment of the mainstream, so they end up homeless. As opposed to, when you take the treatment of the mainstream, they at least give you a home. And it would be cool to consult with the indigenous people who know all about the natural stuff. A lot of what we get in touch with is what they already had the wisdom about, but it's foreign to us because we don't have that wisdom. So this will give people a sense of belonging, and if once the mental is decreased, then the world centricity increases. So mental is noise, and the world centricity is joys. So from noise to joys. There's no such thing as mental wellness or mental health. All of that is noise. visionary stuff is seeing through the noise, and the noise is still mixed in there, so it makes it very difficult to function. There is a world that we don't function based on thought and abstractions. This organization works on the premise that something doesn't resonate in the social fabric, and it's up to us to change it. We have to have the social fabric resonate up to our visions, not just open dialoguing us back into the social fabric, which is important too. It's important for that to happen, but then that's when a person needs to look back and harvest their experience for what it is they're here to do, and move towards that with the ego intact somewhat, and that seems like what I'm kind of doing. If we just are able to reintegrate and we don't acknowledge what it was that we experienced and we saw and harvest it and move towards it, then we're thinking, oh, I'm safe again, so I'm fine. That means somebody else is unsafe. So we can almost think of it as that increases the need of somebody else needing a professional down the line to intervene. We must create a new social fabric that is more congruent with our visions together, that others will naturally gravitate towards. This eliminates the need for conversations about stigma, and it also eliminates some of the need for so many professionals. There was a lady whose son said, imagine if we all acted that way. Imagine if we were all this way. The world would change. And she thought, yeah. And I heard somebody once say that I know it feels schizophrenic, but it'll have to do for now. And I believe he was speaking to the whole visionary experience. This could be a for-profit company. Profit as in prophetic. It's a place for the manic energy to be channeled. It's like a different context for it to be channeled. It's usually channeled into the personal ego is illness paradigm, and not into this great, it's like channeled into this limited thing when it's supposed to be this big expanse. And so this helps to provide that expanse for people. And so the respite wouldn't just be to harvest, the respite wouldn't just be to integrate distress, but it would also be to harvest the eustress. There is eustress in those states a lot of times. The ego is stress, and the visions are eustress. So it's like having an ego and then being in these visions, and the ego is in discord, in dissonance with the visions. So there's stress and there's eustress. When one decouples from the ego and sees the beauty, there's eustress, and like, I can move towards this, and then the ego pulls us back and it's stressful. So it's stress either way. Even if there's eustress, it's stress, and it makes it difficult and probably starts to break down the hippocampus, and we can't really, we're in that world that's more timeless, and it's not this linear time thing happening. And this business could be made a world thing. I think it needs to be turned into a game, into an app, and so you can earn points and get gift cards and stuff for acts of kindness. This would create a different kind of currency. It would create a world where people are seeing and looking where they can be helpful. And that would just naturally make them feel better. And then they would be able to make better choices on what it is they wanted to do in life. If that app was able to create everyone high on oxytocin, we're just going to co-create a different world. Those would create different epigenetic changes, and we'd be naturally healthier, and we'd need less care in different ways. I was thinking how I was trying to design this years ago. When I first went into manic consciousness, I was seeing that if you create a super healthy, thriving individual, it could really be passed along. Like, one person gets helped, and then the next person, like, they sponsor the next person, and etc., etc. Imagine if it costs, say, $10,000 to create somebody in such a way that they're not dependent on the system ever again. It's going to save a lot more than $10,000. And if there was less medical need, then we could actually put tax money into creating beautiful stuff. And there has to be a new way of living created through this, because the current way of living creates the stress that causes a person to not stay completely well. So it wouldn't just be about making a person well, but it'd have to be part of lifestyle design as well to stay well. And it'd be all the stuff I've learned in the last 6 years and more, and how to expedite it in other people. And so it's a business where the clients become part of the business and co-create the business. It's not about making money. It's about amplifying the internal human dimension, the oxytocin experiences, the opposites of psychosis, all those human dimensions which are inward eternity. It has nothing to do with time. It's beauty, it's truth, it's love. Creating it so people's lifestyle is in alignment with that, and not ego, time, and measure of what they think they need to do and is necessary. The pleasure complex. I wrote down some more stuff about business, so I'll just read it. But special messages wellness, a social purpose business. To increase wellness literacy and human capacity literacy. I work in mental health, and they talk about how need to increase mental health literacy, which means mental illness literacy. So I think by creating wellness literacy and human capacity literacy, we can move towards that. Not that the other isn't important, but to increase visionary literacy, to increase therapeutic lifestyle design practices and happiness first, to optimize human developmental potential, to augment human capacities of kindness, altruism, laughter, play, I better add play, to increase self-knowledge of human physiology and self-understanding, to normalize distress and extraordinize living, to go from blindness, division and noticing differences, to kindness and human commonality, to increase social capital, to create gatekeepers to extreme well-being and thriving, to educate about self-knowledge. I think I put that somewhere else. To restore the brain to learning, to provide safe space, inner safe space as well. And practices, lifestyle design coaching to change social fabric with spontaneous social behaviors and positive social contagion stuff, world centricity coaching, altruism, etc., ECPR facilitating for distress, TRE, trauma release exercise. I like the thought of trauma as a memory problem. And random intentional acts of kindness, referral community to things like rolfing, colon hydrotherapy, things that bring more clarity and lightness. Creations can have books celebrating psychosis and hacking mania, dream center building, tools, magical backpack, harvesting, embodying stuff like YouTube, LinkedIn, WordPress, Instagram, Twitter, avatars, wonder horror, nuts about melons, clear skies. That's all I have. Oh wait, no. Strategies, ECPR, come here, and have my mom and my sister take it, as well as, and also something about fish oil for sure. And YouTube commissions, GoFundMe, Patreon, Generosity, Square Reader for book sales, product partners, Rebounder, Swirl Water, Community Capacity Building, Peer Potential Project, Peer Initiative Fund, which I would say is more like the Visionary Initiative Fund. And some more stuff I wrote down that I will just translate into video because I find it more digestible. I find if I make it into a video, I probably repeat talking about it like once or twice, versus if I have it written down, I've probably been writing down similar stuff for years, though some of it's new, but it's not the same for some reason. So I've been trying to get a hold of the futurepreneur people. So world-centric growth, we-go growth, not just ego growth, less need for adult mental health, whether it's because youth don't need to get transitioned to it or whatever. Train parents and teachers in ECPR. The value in transformative experience. And I sort of thought it's like the inward revolution and the diamonds and the dog shit that Carol Marie Friesen talks about. And my company trains pure wellness ambassadors to know about the movement. Also utilize Emma Bragdon's Integrated Mental Health University. Lets people know about representation agreements and advance directives, and the NIDIS organization, and that's harm reduction stuff. Extraordinized reality, altruism, world centricity right away. New consciousness advocate Dion Bimal stuff, as well as 90-day challenge, and let people know about med reduction stuff like EMP, point of balance or point of return, whatever it's called, the lithium doctor, create 100 hours of meaning. I could utilize this space at Decide Your Life down the hill, and Decide Your Why, which is taught by Simon Sinek, and Learning and Social Flow course by the Flow Genome Project people. It's about learning, energy, creativity, play. Remember about Eventbrite and how it's a ticket creator. So wellness options for people labeled or living with a diagnosis. So it's people living with a diagnosis, not necessarily living with a mental illness. The Power of Now practice. World centricity wellness. Turn MI into kindness, giving, altruism. Make reality not suck. A Rosha internships. Sorrow optimists, those women. Appreciative inquiry and coaching. Valuing the best of what is, envision what might be, dialoguing what should be. Could have what should be dialogues, which is visionary dialogues. And share the best training document with health caregivers, being with extreme states. And the Coherence app, Stress Doctor, is kind of cool, as well as the other one by CompleteCoherence.com. Also share SpiritualCompetence.com, and there's a FamiliesHealingTogether.com, which is a $249 course. So these are some of the things to integrate into the organization that aren't needing to reinvent the wheel. So ECPR is a public health program for law enforcement as well. I'm an ECPR ambassador. Oh, and the Mindsight Institute and interpersonal neurobiology for coaches. Making meaning. Have a food and nutrition aspect. Do a GoFundMe campaign for magical backpacks, which are to do with spontaneous social behaviors to change the social fabric. The book Brain Maker could be good. Epigenetic foods, that list I have. Spirituality. Be a visionary coach. Harvest Your Mania. Help people complete their transformation. Mini trampoline and music, and just be a happiness coach. NIDIS brochures should be in the hospitals. And zap straps with an anti-suicidal message, as well as safety from the system, as well as safety from self-harm. And people can say, "Hey Siri," if the phone is in range, and have the medical ID section in your phone filled out. Just as you wouldn't go rock climbing without some kind of harness, you would not go out in the universe with this consciousness without some kind of safety. And there needs to be a place for people to voice their collective feedback about the system, have a person living with a diagnosis perspectives section. The Science of Human Factors, 10 quick ways to calm down. Psychosis as cortisol, fight, flight, or freeze. Adrenochrome. educate carers on best, as well as soteria, which is going with delusions. Just like somebody with Alzheimer's would be like, yeah, let's go get a cup of tea on the way to your work. You would want to go along with people who are having distress as well. And general semantics, promote book choices and recovery. These are all higher levels of consciousness, ways of approaching it. Decrease meds, connect with altruism, not having people go on medication in the first place, giving them lots of fish oil and connecting them with their altruism. Brain Biocenter has Skype consultations. Be a wellness navigator, educator. Options in wellness educator, coach. Options for decreasing medications, getting off medications, increasing nutrition, food allergies, TRE app, opposites of psychosis, mental diversity and neurotribes, wellness neighborhood. I'm just your neighbor sharing what I know. Put the Celestine Prophecy Insight on business card. Make the vision come true of the 12 insights. Support the 9th insight, put on YouTube as well. Practical shit towards world centricity. Write some good questions, so the power of powerful questions. And the Heart Maths Coach Mentor Certificate Program. Patch Adams School. Learn TRE. Have somebody in the organization learn TRE. That's the thing, each of these cool things, somebody in the company can be an expert in and provide it at the center. Design a total transformation for people to go from dullness to wellness in 90 days. 90-day challenge. Call the Spiritual Emergence Hotline. So educate people about the Spiritual Emergence Hotline. And maybe work with Q Aware. And design in an amount for me to get the education I need, like going to interpersonal neurobiology and also to Patch Adams, and maybe just be a clown and also a music producer. So this business could actually be a way for me to also create the me that I want to be in order to best be of service to the world, which could just be being a DJ, like I said before. The Laughing Body, social goodwill, making meaning, the Hallelujah Diet, create a spiritual emergence coach group, and check out the new life coaching forums. Wellness is about being able to see clearly and activate learning. So that's why reducing medications could be important. Connect with a micronutrient support doctor, or connect EMP with a doctor. What might be? This is about happiness. It's important to have happiness first through lifestyle design and altruism before reducing any kind of medications, because one has to have meaning, one has to have a different way of living before removing that which makes living the way one is living tolerable. I invite you to be collaborative with your own wellness and collaborative with the wellness of the world. Oh, it'd be nice to sell bidets as well instead of people using toilet paper. Could even have sales representatives to go around selling things that are world-centric products like bidets, etc. Conscious mania, intentional mania, manic coaching, making meaning through dialogue. Open dialogue, this would be like visionary dialogue or appreciative dialogue, and I hope this generates different dialogue. Love whistle, head tingler, the zapper, and my questions list, my 100 and some odd questions, and a video on strategies, and a cow on the trampoline and magical backpack. The beauty of a flower is the cognitive dissonance. If we could only see it. Altruism alters consciousness. And this is also to restore people to learning, which is love.